So, the New Year New Sword event is finally over, and I believe that many of us commanders has the same question going through our minds right now. And that question is there a chance that Rose is coming back in the future? Especially when considering how her duel with Scarlet ended. And my simple answer to that is yes. I think that there is a chance that she will come back in the future and in a way that would make sense within the game's lore, which we are going to discuss today. Now, when discussing about Rose returning in the future, I've seen many people who think that she is going to return as a heretic. And I can definitely understand why many would come to this conclusion, because we know that Rose was the first Nikke to ever kill a human, and therefore we can classify her as a traitor towards humanity just like the heretics. Also, knowing how much Shift Up loves writing tragic stories, I wouldn't be surprised if they decide to reunite these sisters as mortal enemies, especially when you consider this line from the hard mode ending. But personally, I don't think that this is what's going to happen, because we know from Niall Lister's Bond story that heretics, including the Queen, all started out as corrupted Nikkes before their transformation, therefore lowering the chance of Rose becoming a heretic, because we all know from the event story that Rose was never corrupted. We can't even classify her as an irregular. She is just a normal Nikke with a strong mind and a blindfold. I would also like to point out that the United Federations of Humanity took Rose's body back to their base, which would mean that the Raptures cannot just simply take her away the same way they did with Marion and Lilith. Now, if Rose isn't going to become a heretic, then how is she possibly going to return? Well, I think the answer to that question is in the big reveal from their commander, that the strongest slash last surviving member of the melee squad is going to be turned into a Grimm's model. I believe that one of the reasons why the UFH took Rose's body is so that they can use her to proceed to the next stage of the project. But obviously, this raises some questions, because we know that Rose died in her duel against Scarlet, and Scarlet was the one who remained, so it would make more sense to turn Scarlet into a Grimm's model, instead of taking a risk by turning a Nikke who already killed a human once into one of the most powerful Nikke models. Well, first off, I think the reason why Scarlet wasn't chosen is because she was already recruited by Lilith before the UFH could arrive. Because as we know from the Red Ash event, they got a squad were the first people to arrive at the scene after the rebellion. Therefore, Lilywise already recruited Scarlet before the UFH members could say anything. And they probably didn't want to antagonize the most powerful Nikke to ever exist, especially while investigating a case where a Nikke just murdered a UFH officer. As for Rose, yes, she did die. However, it's already been stated many times in the lore that Nikkes aren't truly dead as long as their brains remain intact. In fact, we've already seen many examples of Nikkes who already died once but was able to be resurrected back to life thanks to this very same reason. And we all know from the event story that Rose was stabbed in the core, meaning that her brain should still remain intact. Now, I've seen people who think that Rose can't be revived because Scarlet stated that Rose's core was used to temper the fleetly fading. But this shouldn't really be an issue because, again, only the brain is stated to be required for a Nikke to be resurrected. The core is obviously an important component because it's responsible for generating power, but it's not irreplaceable, unlike the brain. In fact, we actually have an example where a Nikke was able to be revived without a core, which is when Rappy lost her body back in chapter 2. She was able to come back as if nothing had happened, even though her head was the only body part of her that we were able to bring back to the ark, while the rest of her body, including her core, was left somewhere on the surface. Also, 3 of the 6 Nikkes that we rescued in the Alone Survivor event no longer have their own bodies, and instead they had their brains stored inside brain shelters, which is why, like Rappy, they also had to have their entire bodies replaced. These examples show that losing her core shouldn't prevent Rose from being resurrected. Now, Another thing that we should consider about Rose is that she is a Nikke who has the knowledge on how to bypass the NIMS inhibitors. Therefore, the UFH might find it risky to revive her as she could be a potential threat, especially in the scenario where they are not just simply reviving her as the regular Rose, but they are reviving her as one of the most powerful Nikke models. Which is why I think that the UFH would most likely have her undergo a memory wipe, not only to remove her memories of what happened during the rebellion, but to also let her be reborn as an entirely new Nikke while still retaining all of her combat data. Having her memory wipe would also explain why she never tried to reunite with Scarlet if she was indeed resurrected, as she obviously can't reunite with a sister that she herself can't remember. It would also give meaning to this aforementioned line from the hard mode ending of the event. And lastly, I would also like to point out that Rose has always been the main candidate for this project, because as mentioned by her commander, they've already identified the strongest member of the squad based on their combat data. That it won't matter even if Rose tried to sabotage the project because they've already singled her out as the strongest member of the squad. And so I believe that it makes sense for them to use Rose instead if they can't get their hands on Scarlet. And so these are the reasons why I think that Rose is going to come back as a Grimm's model. Now, I'm not saying that Heretic Rose is no longer possible because obviously Shift Up can still go for that route if they wanted to. They just need to write a scenario where Rose is fixed as normal Rose and then somehow got corrupted afterwards. But I really think that the Grimm's model route is more plausible, especially with the current stuff that we've been given from the New Year New Sword story. Also, we already have two dead specialized Nikke's return as heretics, so I think Rose ending up having a different fate could be quite interesting. But anyway, that's it for this video, and thanks for watching.